Read it. Read it. Reddit. Read it. Wrote it. Read it.
Today, let's talk about villains, the bad guys. As you know, lots of stories have bad guys. They can be thieves, bullies, ogres, tyrants, cheaters, or just people who haven't learned to be nice, like you and I are. I have 3 books today about thieves and bullies. And there's one thing about thieves and bullies: sooner or later, they get outsmarted. Oh, they may get away with something once or twice or even 3 times, but somewhere down the road, they get caught. Our first book is The Rise and Fall of Ben Gizzard by Richard Kennedy. Now, Ben's a funny character, but he's also a bully. He thinks he rules the world. And that's because years ago, an old Indian fortune teller had told Ben that he would live until the day he saw a white mountain upside down and a black bird talking to him. Well, Ben thought it would be many days before he saw such crazy things as that, and it made him bold. He moved to Depression Gulch and started to dig for silver. And one day in the silver mine there was a terrible explosion. It blew Ben all the way across the canyon. And when he got up and didn't have a scratch on him, he started to really believe that Indian's fortune telling. Well, first he became sheriff, then he became mayor of town and started taking advantage of everybody. Well, there weren't any birds there, no white mountains, so he thought he would probably live forever. Then one day, a nice guy moved to town, a fellow named Paul. And perched on his shoulder was, guess what? A big black bird. He moved into an old shack and started painting pictures. And guess what those pictures were of? White mountains. Well, this started to worry old Ben. This was coming pretty close to the Indian's prediction. He tried everything he could think of to get rid of Paul, even had the sheriff try to burn him out. And then Ben noticed above the old shack where Paul was painting, there was a big stone, a boulder. He shifted it and arranged it so that on cue, it would fall on Paul the minute Paul stepped out of his house.
Now, early the next morning, Ben took the sheriff off with him to Paul's shack while Paul was working at the tailings. Now, directly above the shack was an overhanging cliff with a great boulder balanced on it. Ben told the sheriff to climb up there and drop a string down with a rock on the end of it. Now, the rock dangled directly above the porch just outside the charred front door. Ben got his man with him again and gave orders. You stay up there with a boulder, and I'll come around after Paul gets back from the tailings and get him to come out the door. And then I'll look up, and I'll nod at you, and you shove the boulder over the cliff. You got that? The sheriff nodded. That's mighty smart, Mr. Gizzard. I guarantee you I ain't wearing silk shorts 'cause I'm stupid. Now you get up there. An hour later, Paul was in his shack painting when Mayor Ben Gizzard came around. Ben stood on the porch steps and greeted Paul in a friendly way, but Paul looked at him suspiciously. Ben squinted through the door. He could see a painting of a snow-covered mountain on the easel, and the black bird was perched in its usual place on top of the easel. It glanced at Ben with a cold and weary eye, and then looked out the open window. Say, painting another mountain, are you? Said Ben, for he had to seem friendly to lure Paul outside onto the porch where the boulder would fall. You can't hang me for painting this one, Mr. Gizzard. This one's not a dream mountain. This one's real. Paul spoke a word to the black bird. It jumped from the easel and flew out the window. Up it circled, up, 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 until it rode high above Depression Gulch in the free wind. Now, way up there, my bird sees a real mountain, said Paul. And he tells me about it, and this is a picture of that mountain. Ben laughed. That a fact? A talking bird, eh? His voice was nervous. Yes, sir, said Paul, and he touched at the canvas with his brush. Well, Paul, that's great. I wouldn't want to stop you from painting that mountain. I've been thinking it over, see, and conclude we need a painter in town. Yeah, I've been thinking about just that. So you just step out the door here, and I'll swear you in and make it all official. Well, Paul stopped painting and turned to the mayor. I don't believe you, Mr. Gizzard. You tried to stop me painting once before, and I think you tried to burn me out of here. I don't believe you like me at all. You shoved my bird first time we met, and you won't let me have any silk or paint my dreams, and I think you're trying to hurt me.
Oh, Paul, that's not so. Just step out here. We'll talk this over.
Didn't the sheriff try to burn down my place?
Oh, no, Paul, listen. We need a painter. I mean, I'll get you a gold medal that says Town Painter right on it.
And could I paint my dreams? Paul asked. He was beginning to believe Ben, who, like a snake, had a way of getting up close and confidential before he struck.
Oh, dreams, memories, visions, miracles, anything. You just take my word for it.
Paul laid his brush down and took a step toward the door. And you let me have some silk to paint on?
Of course, Paul. Silk, satin, velvet, anything.
Paul hesitated. I still don't know if I believe you, Mr. Gizzard.
Now listen, Paul, listen. Now you look right here.
He stooped and slid off one fancy boot, and then the other, and unbuckled the great silver buckle on his trousers.
Now, Paul, you can have all the silk you want, and I'll give you some to start on right now. I just want to show you my heart's in the right place.
And he dropped his trousers. Well, Ben was wearing light blue silk shorts with just the faintest yellow line in them and a delicate pattern of pale pink flowers. Paul stepped to the very entrance of the door to look at this wonder of the undergarment trade. He was one step away from the place where the boulder would come crashing down.
Now you just take one more step out here, Paul, and I'll strip these silk shorts off and hand them right to you.
He stepped out of his trousers and kicked them aside. Mayor Ben Gizzard stood there in his bare legs, smiling and innocent. Paul, finally fooled, took the step out the door. Ben Gizzard looked up. He nodded, and the boulder rolled off the cliff and fell.
Well, the boulder fell, but I won't tell you who it fell on. I'll let that be a surprise for you when you read The Rise and Fall of Ben Gizzard by Richard Kennedy. Now for our second book. Our next book is also by Richard Kennedy, The Parrot and the Thief. Now remember I said a thief could get away with something once, twice, maybe even 3 times, but he eventually got caught? Well, this one is a pretty clever thief. And in this story there's also a talking bird, and that bird is very important as to how that thief gets caught.
Once upon a time, in a village by the sea, lived a disappointed man who took to stealing things. Well, one day he stole a parrot, which he found in a cage down beside the harbor where the ships sailed in from far lands. Well, the thief had no use for the bird, but kept it because it was a talking parrot and might tell him of buried treasures or other hidden riches. He carried the cage home with him, and on that very same day he also stole a sheep from a neighbor and killed it. A part of the sheep he cooked and ate, and the rest he hid in his barn. The neighbor came round that evening seeking his missing sheep and asked the man if he'd seen it. The man replied that he had not, but the parrot spoke up and said,
Oh, he killed it, and part of it he hid in the barn.
The parrot was eager to be with his real owner and off to sea on a ship. Well, the neighbor found the sheep just as the parrot had said, but the thief insisted.
Oh, I did not steal the sheep. The foolish bird speaks lies.
And the parrot cried out again.
Oh, he killed it, and part of it he hid in the barn.
Well, unable to decide between the words of the man and the words of the bird, the neighbor appealed to the law, and a trial was arranged for the next day. Well, that night, the man put the parrot into a barrel and fastened the cloth tightly around the top. All that night, he poured water onto the cloth and beat with a stick on the side of the barrel, which made a deep and rumbling sound. It was a mild night with the stars and the moon shining brightly. But the parrot in his dark barrel did not know this. When the sun came up, the man removed the bird from the barrel and placed it in its cage, and then took it to court as a witness. When the parrot was called to speak to the court about the sheep, it said as before,
Oh, he killed it, and part of it he hid in the barn.
Well, all the people believed the bird. But the thief said,
Will you put me in jail on the word of a parrot? I know nothing of that sheep. Ask it another question. Ask it what manner of night it was last night.
Well, the question was put to the parrot, and the parrot, remembering the fearful night of the rumbling noise and the drenching water, answered.
Last night came a great rainstorm and much thunder.
Well, the people cried, certainly the bird cannot be believed. And the thief was let go with the parrot. Later in that very day, the thief went to another neighbor and stole a chicken, which he cooked and ate, after which he buried the feathers and bones outside the house by the pump. Searching for her missing chicken, the neighbor came around and asked the man if he'd seen it.
Oh, I have not seen your chicken,
Said the thief. But the parrot spoke up and said,
He killed it and ate it and buried the bones and feathers by the pump.
well, the neighbor found the remains of the chicken just as the parrot had said. But the thief insisted,
I did not steal your chicken.
and the parrot cried,
He killed it and ate it, and he buried the bones and feathers by the pump.
This foolish bird speaks nothing but lies.
The thief scoffed. The neighbor could not make up her mind who was telling the truth, so she appealed to the court, and a trial was set for the next day. Well, that night, the thief put the parrot into a large tin can and fastened onto it a top with holes in it. And all night long, the man packed ice around the can and fanned air over the ice and down through the holes, and the water in the bottom of the can froze. It was a mild night, and the stars and moon shone brightly, but the parrot did not know it. The next morning, the man removed the nearly frozen bird from the can and placed it in its cage, then took it to court as a witness, as he had been instructed. The parrot was called to testify about the chicken, and it said, the same as before,
He killed it and ate it and buried the bones and feathers by the pump.
well, the people were inclined to believe the bird. But the thief said,
The bird cannot be believed. I know nothing of those bones and feathers. Surely you would not put me in jail on the word of a lying parrot. Ask it another question. Ask it what manner of night it was last night.
well, the question was asked, and the parrot answered according to its memory of the freezing night and said,
Last night the cold wind came and the water froze to ice.
well, the people shook their heads and declared, the words of the bird cannot be believed. The man is innocent. And they let him go with the parrot.
Well, that parrot is not so stupid, and sooner or later, it's going to catch on. And when it does, the thief will be caught. But I'll let you read that for yourself. Our last book, also by Richard Kennedy, has every kind of bad guy you can think of. The Contests at Cowlick. Now, these bad guys have names like Snakebite, Gouge Eye, Hogbone, Lump, Dump, and Stump, but they're all outsmarted by a little kid named Wally. Here is a portrait of Hogbone and part of his evil gang. There's just time enough to remind you that all of these books are good and funny. Contests at Cowlick, The Parrot and the Thief, and The Rise and Fall of Ben Gizzard, and they're all by Richard Kennedy.